Alright, so what we have today is an anchor chart about fractions, decimals, and percents or percentages, okay? And if we haven't talked about this before, we'll talk about it now. Fractions, decimals, and percents, I like to think of these as being kind of like Clark Kent. Okay, so here's Clark Kent. Okay. Oh, Clark. Okay. And there's this cute tie and his shoulders, the collared shirt. Okay, here he is. Oh, just your mild-mannered reporter. Okay, and then there's Superman. Oh, a little bit of a nose. Okay, all right. All right, same awesome hair. Let's see, big powerful chest that somehow you didn't see underneath that mild-mannered outfit, and there's the S. Okay, what do I mean by fractions, decimals, and percents are like Clark Kent and Superman? So they're the same thing, but in general we try not to ever see them at the same time in the same place. They shouldn't be in the same place at the same time, but sometimes we're given both of them or two or three or combinations of, and then we want to make all of them like we want to convert. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, let's talk about a fraction. Okay, a fraction. Okay, has a numerator and a denominator, right? A decimal. Okay, and a percent. And a percent has a percent sign after it. Okay. Well, 1/4 is actually the same as 0.25 or 25 hundredths, which is actually the same as 25%. Okay, so I'm going to show you how. So to turn a fraction into a decimal, okay, the bar on the fraction, okay, this bar right here, okay, just means divided by. Okay. In fact, the division sign is actually, check this out, this sign right here, okay, is actually a fraction bar with with the dot standing in for numbers, right? Okay, 1/4. Okay, so 1 divided by 4. Okay, so this part is converting fraction to decimal. Okay, like I'm just going to do a fraction line there. Okay, so you are going to divide I'm trying to really think about how I say this. So it would be 1 divided by 4. So it's the numerator by the denominator. Okay, divide the top number by the bottom number. Okay, so 1 divided by 4. Okay, and if you forget which one to divide into, let me just tell you, if it's easy, you're probably not doing it right, unless it's got it's a mixed number. But because 4 divided by 1 is easy, 1 divided by 4 is not. 4 does not go into 1, so I have to put a decimal and extend my number. Okay, if there's a decimal in the dividend, then you put a decimal matching at the quotient. Does 4 go into 10? Yes, it does. It goes into 10 2 times. 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, 10 minus 8 is 2. 4 does not go into 2, so we're going to drop another 0 down. Okay, 4 does go into 20. 4 goes into 25 times. 5 times 4 is 20, and I am done. Okay, so this is where I have shown you that 1/4 equals 25 hundredths. Okay, So now let's do the other way, okay? So we're going to converting decimal to fraction, okay? Converting decimal to fraction, okay? And what we're going to do is you start with, let's see, so kind of step one, okay, create a fraction with a denominator of 10, 100, etc. Okay, what do we mean? And then I'll explain that in a minute. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Okay, so 0 to 25 hundredths is the same as literally 25 hundredths, right? Okay, so if it had been 2 tenths, I would have converted it to a fraction 2 tenths. Okay, and then step 2 is just simplify. Okay, so 25 hundredths is not the simplest form of this fraction. Okay, it's the same as, well, let's see, both of these can be divided by 25. Okay, so if I divide 25 by 25, I get 1. If I divide 100 by 25, I get 4, 1/4. So here I have shown that 1/4 equals 25 hundredths again. Okay, and that leaves me with one more thing, and I am actually, I think I've got some room right here. I think I'm just going to go with it. So I'm going to break up my page a little bit. Okay, just with some lines. Okay, if you have to go into the back, don't worry. This last part doesn't take up a ton of room. Okay, sorry, autofocus. Come on. Okay, converting percents. Okay. Okay. Here. You move the decimal 2 places, okay? Move the decimal 2 places. What do we mean by that? Okay, I've got 25%, okay? And if you forget, there's 2 little circles, 2 places. Okay, right now the decimal in 25 is right there. If I want to turn this into a decimal or a fraction, the first thing I'm going to do is move my decimal place. And now instead of 25%, I have 0.25 or 25 hundredths. Okay, so 25% equals 25 hundredths. Okay, so, and that's just kind of how percents work. So, and then once you've gotten to here, you can convert a decimal to a fraction if you need to, but that is kind of how it works. Fractions, decimals, and percents.